good afternoon from cloudy California, Myke. Are we in May gray and then we're going into June gloom? What's going on? We pay weather tax here.
Yeah, no, tell me about it. Every day is different, right? It starts out one way and ends another.
I wanted to say sunny California, but I'm looking outside and it's been May gray for just that, the entire month of May. We won't get into what weather is around here, guys, because we are doing Comping California. This is the premiere show. We are starting out. You got to start somewhere, guys. And today is the day. And we're starting out with Myke Van Ness. Myke, I am going to give you the mic and then let you introduce yourself because you are part of the Astro Flipping family of sorts. You are with Keighley West. So share the audience, what is Keighley? What do you do? And well, at the end, I'll put it in the show notes how to get a hold of you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, Renee. Looking forward to getting into some comping today in California. So this is all I do. I'm actually the dispositions director for Keighley West. So we're one of Jamil's franchise owners out of California on the West Coast. So we actually own 5.5 franchises. We're LA, Orange County, Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, Kern County, Fresno, and Sacramento. And we actually just partnered up in Vegas as well with one of the owners out there. But I run dispositions for the Southern California market right now. That's my role. This is what I do every day. So our team is actively doing acquisitions. We do agent outreach. That's our strategy. And we also joint venture with other wholesalers to move their properties to our buyers. So we have quite an extensive buyers list. I have people from single family to multifamily to land development, retail end users. And basically our model is to move properties to the finish line, get a nice assignment fee for everybody, get everybody paid, and move properties to end users that are either going to flip it, keep it, remodel it, burr it, sub to it, whatever they're going to do. We're here and we're supplying basically the buyers with opportunity. And I do all the underwriting for the company. So anything that comes through, I check it off first, make sure, hey, I feel like we can move this and we have a shot at it. And also we flip ourselves. So locally here in the Inland Empire, our main office is located in Upland, California, which is in San Bernardino County. Those of you in LA might know where that is or might not know where that is, but we're about 45 minutes or so from like downtown. And, we kind of run our flips within about a 30 mile radius of where we're at. And then everything else we are assigning basically from a wholesale perspective.
Wow. I mean, come on, guys. For a premiere, did I do good or did I do great? Those of you who are tuning in, Myke, I just want to take a couple of steps back because this audience is not going to just be wholesalers. They might be folks tuning in, kind of want to be wholesalers or even just agents. One of the other sister shows that Corianne, my partner, and I run is called Ask the Agent Anything. And what we're talking about is bridging the gap of agents and investors because it's a little bit of oil and water. So what I noticed is you used a lot of lingo and it's an appropriate lingo, but let me break it down a little bit, for the first time listener, right? This is going to live on YouTube. So acquisition disposition, I know as a seasoned agent and just in terms of myself, I've been an agent for now almost 19 years. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Here in the California market, I'm licensed in California and I do all kinds of exit strategies. So whether it's a wholesale, as Myke said, a creative financing, even for me, small lot development. Now we have things SB8, SB9 that have been passed. So in short, that's more like a value add, a garage conversion into a studio or one bedroom with even a separate address. You're just not making any more land, especially in California, right? So it's more like urban infill. What the county, the state even said, what can we do to kind of fill in the blanks for a housing crisis that we've been in the time I've been in real estate and prior to that, at least 20, 25 years. There just aren't enough houses. Okay, so acquisitions. Think of it, if you're an agent out there listening, that's really more like a seller. The reason why we're calling it an acquisition is because Myke and Keighley almost primarily do wholesaling, I'm assuming, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, as your primary source. So you said creative financing, you said some other exit strategies, but you're primarily doing wholesaling. So in wholesaling, it's not just the buyer and the seller who are actually selling a property and then they're cashing out on their property. What you're doing as a wholesaler is you go, ooh, I just found a really dirty, ugly house that looks like it can be flipped. I'm going to put it under contract and then I'm going to take that contract to a disposition person or the buyer. a disposition. So you're acquiring the property and you're dispositioning the property. So in short, that's AC, dispo, or acquisition disposition. That's what you heard from Myke there. A lot of times you're going to hear some other lingo, buy box. I never even knew what that was when I heard it for the first time. A buy box is just your laundry list of what you're looking for that will be appropriate, for the property that you're looking for. And so when you're talking to other investors, other wholesalers, you might want to step up and know what you're talking about and say, hey, what is your buy box? I need to know what it is that you're looking for so that I can bring you the appropriate property or properties so that we can make a match and we don't waste anybody's time. So with that, Myke, we're going to actually just kind of jump right on into it. And for those of you who are in the chat, I want to see some questions, concerns, any hallucinations. I'm going to look there, but I'm going to bring up, Myke had let me know that Redfin is actually his choice of how to comp a property. And what I'm doing here as the host of this show is I want to bring value. This is an educational moment. So instead of it being maybe Zillow or a third-party property like Privy, or even if you're an agent and you're utilizing the MLS that you're paying dues for, here's another way. So you might even want to kind of test your own numbers by looking at it on Redfin and looking at it on Zillow. So Myke, take it away and let's see, how if I was brand new, if I was a employee, so to speak, of Keegley, teach us, start us from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. So Redfin's my preference, right? There's many ways to obviously skin a cat here to comp a property. There's Privy, there's Zillow, there's Redfin, there's the MLS if you're licensed. I like all of them. All of them have their place. Redfin I've used for many, many years, and it's probably been the best interface because of how versatile it is and kind of the views I get to see, especially when I'm looking at more complex properties. So I've taught the team, when someone new joins our acquisition team, right? A lot of times, sometimes they have a background, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they've been through Astra like myself, and sometimes they haven't, right? So we really break down, hey, here's what we're looking for. And the way we do that is very similar to a way like an appraiser is going to look at a property, right? We're going to look at the bed and bath count. We're going to look at the square footage. We're going to look at the lot sizes, the amenities on the property, the year built, the era that it's built, the design, the style. Those matter really matter the most, especially in LA. Like if I have a craftsman style home, if I have a Spanish style home, if I have a Tudor style home, those are some of the houses that we see that get premiums in the LA market are ones that have what we call character, right? They're built around the turn of the century and they have that potential because everybody wants that porch. Everybody wants that double roof craftsman style, with the overhang, because that's what the movies sell us, right? As we've been growing up. So those are always the most desirable. And as I teach the team on, what we look for, what we do over here is we actually choose one comp, right? You might have 3 or 4 different ones, but we ask the team, hey, choose one comp to hang your hat on. And then that's what we utilize as our ARV value. And then we back in from there. And here at Keegley, what I've done is I've broken down through data, basically where we need to be percentage wise in most of Southern California. So where are the buyers buying? What kind of percentage are they looking for? Rehab, it has its place, but at the end of the day, I know that if I'm between 65 and 75% of ARV in most cases, that we can move the property without a problem. And now that being said, of course, that 10% range is how bad is the rehab or how big is the house. So things can slide, a few different directions based on that. But each and every pocket we actually have broken down for our team. So they're able to kind of look and see, hey, where do I need to offer for this to actually be something that we could move on the backside? Because I'm talking to buyers every day. I know what their appetites are. It does change, obviously, with the markets when interest rates change or when things happen in the news. Some buyers pull out, some buyers come back in. I do know that anything under $1 million, I have way more buyers for than over $1 million because of the 7.25% or 3/4, whatever it is now, interest rates. When you start getting across that $1 million mark, the affordability for the average person in California, that mortgage payment becomes really tough. So, we try to stick with the medium to lower price markets if possible. We do, play in a little bit in the higher end markets, but, the preferred with the most buyers is going to be your middle America, populated areas where, we're in a subdivision that was, usually like 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 2000s is what we found is really the best. And what I tell the team too is this business is both an art and a science, and you have to marry them together. Like you can't just do one without the other. You actually have to blend it, and that comes from experience, that comes from practice. How I can go really fast and make decisions because I've looked at thousands of properties and I know my backyard. And I think that's really important too, is really knowing the areas that you're focusing in on, because you become an expert locally. You know what buyers want. You know what, oh, when I cross this major street, that's what this means, or this neighborhood, that's what that means, and being able to go back and forth with that. So I'm happy to share. There's a couple properties we're actually taking. I have a couple we just sold, and then I have a couple that we're in escrow on, and I have another one we're actually taking as a company. I'd be happy to share analysis with those. I'm also open to helping if there's any properties out there that we can take a look at, and I can give you, at least my opinion and thoughts and breakdown on what I would offer and what I would tell the team we could do on that. And so I'm kind of an open book in that regard.
Let's do that. We have David Carter. So thank you, David, for being here. I actually know David. And he has a property up in Victorville. So I know you said Northern California. Is that an area of comfortability? Is that an area in micro market
So Victorville is actually San Bernardino County still. So it's the high desert. So if people talk about up the hill, the high desert, Victorville is definitely right in my pocket. We just did a property up in Apple Valley. I've done multiple properties in Victorville. Love that area. It's actually very hot. Regardless of what some people say, but it's affordable, and that's the key. Is a lot of people that were living down in the Inland Empire and in the Valley in LA, a lot of them are moving to that higher desert area, whether it's the San Bernardino side of the high desert or the LA side, because of the affordability, and they're able to still stay in California.
So David, Myke, I want to do a little bit of house cleaning on David's address. So this is, I'm going to say repeatedly, because we never know when anybody is going to be jumping onto any of these Comping California. So this is really someone putting out an address. We don't know if they have it contracted. We don't know if it's online. We don't know anything. But the ground rules for the show are that someone is vulnerable enough to put up an address that they have an interest in. And I have to play mom for a second. If I somehow find out that this has gotten, squirreled away and somebody went through the back door on this address, I will block you from the show. So this is an opportunity for everybody to learn. There's plenty of opportunity out there, even in a quote unquote housing crisis. Plus, who knows if that's even made up. Just go to work. You're going to make relationships with more people. So I needed to unfortunately say that one time, but I am putting this up here, and David was kind enough to give us an address. So can you see that, Myke, on the Fresno Street in Victorville?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Beautiful.
Now, is there a way I can share my screen or access this Redfin here? I'm newer to StreamYard, so I'm not entirely sure how I grab that.
Ms. Corianne, can I bring it for a sec? How do I do this? Can she hear me? I can't hear you. How do I let him do the presentation?
Hey, y'all, what's up?
What's up? How do I let him do the presentation? Because I'm sharing it now.
Oh, okay. Is this, so he needs to share his screen. Step one.
Okay. So
sorry, I'm just, working deals and eating pizza.
That's okay. Myke, go in the bottom of your screen there and it says present. Click on that.
Cool. Yep.
And then click on Redfin.
Share screen. And then I would just go to Redfin on my computer, right?
Yeah.
It should pop up behind stage, ideally.
Do it again. One more time. I may have to stop my screen. Sorry, guys. Brand new.
Can you guys see me?
And it's not a premiere if you don't have tech issues. Voila.
Okay. We learned something. Go for it.
Okay. You can see me?
Hanging out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you give me that address again? Just type it in.
It is 15535 Fresno Street in Victorville. There we go. Beautiful.
All right. So cool. So I'm going to run through this just as if it came through from one of our ACT guys on our team or one of our Astro members or JV partners that is like, hey, Myke, can we sell this, or what do you think the value is, or where we need to be on this? And then I'll give my 2 cents, and then we'll kind of work backwards from there. So the reason I like Redfin is because of what it gives me from a display standpoint. Um, Redfin is a third-party website for all of you that don't know, just like Zillow, and it pulls from MLSs and data sources. From CoreLogic, it pulls from county records, it pulls from the MLS, and it's across the nation, which I love. It didn't used to be. It used to be only like in California and a few states, but now it's across the nation. It's in just about almost all the markets there these days, and I like it because of the versatility. And not a lot of people. It used to be really simple and straightforward on how to find comps on Redfin, but over the years they've kind of hidden how to do it. So I'll run through how I go about it. But the first thing I do is, since it is active on the market, right? I want to actually look at the pictures and kind of see, well, what's the property looking like? Like what am I getting into? Is it pretty much in original condition? Has there been any upgrades to it? Does it look like it probably needs everything, and it's like an original condition? I would say so. So quickly looking at that. And then the next thing I'm looking at is what's my bed and bath count and what's my square footage, right? And this is going to be based on county records. Sometimes this is inaccurate, and obviously we need to verify that, especially if we're working with like an agent in this instance. I'm assuming that's probably the case. Someone was doing agent outreach. They maybe are working with this agent or somebody in the office that has this listing. So just confirming that. If people tell me, oh, hey, it's actually a 4.2 and it's 1,500 square feet, but it's not permitted, I'll actually only use what's actually permitted, right? Because I don't know if our buyers are going to try to permit it or keep it. Most of them tear it down and have to restart over because the permitting wasn't done right from the beginning. So I always use what the base footprint is. Next, I might even look a little bit what the description says. Sometimes they say other things here like, oh, hey, there was an addition in the back, or oh, it comes with X, Y, and Z. So sometimes there's some more information that can be shared. Same thing with Privy. You would see that on Privy, really similar. Next, I'm looking at, okay, how many days has it been on Redfin? Okay, 38 days. I like that. It's been over 30 days, so it's a good sign. 1958. It's on a good size lot. The bigger lots up in the desert don't make too much more of a difference, like as compared to like if it was closer to like water or with a view. I always tell our team, whenever you have a property that you can like see water from, or you have a massive view of valleys and stuff, your lot size means so much more than not. But we'll continue on. So I'm looking at these things quickly, and what I'm looking for here now is this little box below, which will actually give me the satellite view of the property. The first thing I like to do is I like to kind of see, okay, where's my house sitting in kind of comparison to the market in the area? Is this a good, bad area of Victorville? It's what's my proximity to the freeway? Up in the high desert, you have lots of things happening, right? Some places are populated, and some of them that you kind of get in the middle of nowhere, right? We try to stay away from those ones because they're much harder to comp. But this one looks like it's right in a good pocket here, right by the high school. So I like that. So I'll zoom in to see, okay, what does the lot look like? Do I have a pool? Do I not have a pool? Do I have other structures on the lot from my aerial perspective? Obviously, pools, I try to comp pools with pools, and houses that don't have pools, I don't use houses with pools as comping. Because otherwise it's not apples to apples. And pools really can change things dramatically in this market, especially in California. For instance, like if you're out in Palm Springs, like your pool could be a difference of like $100,000 to $200,000 or more. So it's very important. But this one doesn't have a pool. So the next thing I do is I look at the street view because I want to see, okay, well, what's my street look like? What's going on around me? Do I have any commercial property? Do I have any railroad tracks? Do I have, am I in like a neighborhood that people would want to live, right? Like a typical neighborhood. It looks pretty decent. Looks like, where our house is, it kind of matches what's going on around here. So I don't think I need to make any adjustments probably for that at this point, but that's still to be determined. So next, what I'll do here is I'll go to the location button and I'm going to click on nearby homes for sale. So what that will do now, it's going to bring up my comping features. So that's really important. So I'm going to do that again for everybody because I know I probably went a little fast. So let's go back. We've typed in our property. We've pulled it up. We're going to scroll down probably about a quarter way down the page. I'm going to click on the street view, and then I'm going to move it to location, and then I'm going to go to nearby homes for sale. Okay, so now that's going to bring up my tools so that I can really hunker down in this one. So I always have this one open in another tab, right? Because I want to reference, okay, how big was my property again, and what was my my year built and my lot size. So what I want to do here is I want to probably match it pretty closely. So here we were at a 3 bedroom, and usually when I'm at a 3 bedroom, I usually do 3 and 4 because I don't want to miss anything. And then also, it's a 1 bedroom plus. These are pretty self-explanatory. It's usually one, or if it's 1.5, we're going to use it as a 2. So we'll click on that. I know, you know what, this one was a little smaller actually. So it's a 3-1. It's under. I'll actually probably switch this. So I'm going to actually look at it as I'm going to pull 2 1s and 3 1s because it's more likely that there is other 2 1s that are around this square footage than if there was a 4-1 or a 4-2, right? That's not going to make sense. So this is how I will pull that. So I'll hit done there. Now my home type, I'm going to make sure I choose what kind of property it is. So it's going to be a house. Another reason I really love Redfin is because my land and my multifamily and my mobile homes are all right here. So I can change it real quickly and it actually sorts it for me. So, but for this one, it's a single family home. And then I'm going to go to further filters. The only other further filter I usually use is the square footage, right? So I'm going to choose usually about 10 to 15% of what my property is. It's obviously a little bit on the smaller side. So I'll do the 750, but I don't want to go too much more than about like 1200 for this one. I usually go a little bit over just in case I miss a comp or two, but I don't want to go too far because it's not going to make sense to build build and add square footage in this kind of neighborhood and this price point up here. So I'm going to click C1 home. So now we're still at the for sale. Well, we want to look at the solds, and I usually the defaults at 3 months, and that's where I like to stay unless there's no comps, right? So let's see where we're at here, and the default mechanism here, I believe it actually goes out, I think, a quarter to a half mile. If I want to zoom out and get let's see here, more of the whoops, what happened? Oh, there we go. Okay, if I want to zoom out and get more potential, right, for the area, then I can zoom out there and it'll give me more comps, but let's just use the default for now. I always tell the team, and I'll zoom out here just to explain this, like try to stay within the boundaries of where you're at, right? So like if you're in like a subdivision, it looks like we got to stay on, this is the main freeway, the 15 that runs through the area. So I want to obviously stay on this side of the 15. I want to stay above Mojave. I want to stay on this side of D Street. So my comps are going to be what's in this pocket right here. I really don't want to pull from down over here unless I have no choice to do that. So on this one, I only have one comp to look at. Let's look at this one here. It did sell March 12th, 2024. I will click on this. I want to look at it real quickly. What I'm looking for is it remodeled? Did somebody actually do a remodel on this property? Because my best comp is going to be the house that was flipped, last week across the street with the same footprint, right? We can't always get that. That's like, a unicorn these days. But if I, that's what I'm looking for, and then I'm backing down from there. So for me, looking at these pictures, it's pretty straightforward. This is not a flip. It has a couple updates in it, right? Looks like they've done a couple things kind of along the way, but this is far from a flip here. It did sell for 300 on March 12th. I do like to look at sales and tax history because I like to know when it was listed to when it sold and if it sold over the list price. So it was listed back in January, went pending really fast, and sold basically for what they're asking, looking like that. So I know right off the bat, we are very similar, right? Our lot size is a 1500 smaller, same era, really similar square footage. I already know our house remodeled is worth over 300. So at least I've determined that, but this is not going to be a comp that I want to use at this point. Okay, so next I'm actually going to kind of look and see on the map here, okay, this one, it stood out to me because it's the highest price one in the area. So I'm like, okay, let's look at this. Well, this one was sold May 17th, right? Which was what, last week? We're a 3-1, 1,000 square feet. So we're a little bit bigger, a little smaller on our lot size, but already looking at the pictures, this looks like a remodel to me. And I think you would all agree, right? It checks all those boxes. We got the new cabinets, we got the new flooring, we got the the better pictures is really what's going to identify it. When agents are trying to sell a house, I would hope that they're going to spend some money on some decent pictures, right? And actually try to promote the house. So in this instance, we can see this thing's been fully remodeled, looks good. They didn't stage it. You don't typically stage homes in this area. That makes sense. We don't have a pool. We just have kind of a blank canvas in the backyard, which is pretty common for that market up there in Victorville. So this one to me is going to probably be a really good comp. Now this one sold for 370. So another like cheat code that I use is, again, I'm going to go to the sale and tax history. Okay, but when did it sell, right? Oh, it sold here on December for 256.5. Well, I know if we go to Privy, right, and I had put this address in to this property, I could go to the before and after, and it would show me, oh, that was the before and this is the after, right? I do love that fact about Privy, by the way. I do use Privy occasionally as well. Redfin's kind of my go-to, and then Privy I'll utilize as a secondary. But this already tells me, okay, 256.50. So, and they sold it for 370. So if I pull out my phone real quick and I do the math on that, right? So 356,500 divided by, let's see, 370. 370 by 256. Sorry, calculator's a little slow here. Okay, so I'm at 69% of ARV. So I know, based on obviously being in the seat I am with the dispo for the company, that in Victorville, if as long as I'm below like 70, 71%, I have a buyer for something like this. So 69% kind of gives me my cheat code. Like this is probably a good number where I need to be. Like if I'm offering on this Fresno house, right? This on Fresno Street. So it's listed for 275. It looks like these guys pulled the trigger at 256. Ideally, you know, we don't know if there was going to be a wholesale fee in that or not, but we would want to probably back in, you know, 10, 15K for ourselves or more, you know, depending on your strategy and your business. But this right now is my number one comp. I'm going to keep it up here just so I can reference it. I'm going to still look for other evidence just to kind of confirm this number. But again, as I mentioned when we first started, I teach our team kind of look for that one comp that is similar square footage, similar size in the pocket, you know, that we're in. I know we're a little bit outside of that one. So I want to see if I can get a little tighter to our property first, but I will use this one if I have to, because I'm still kind of within that like secondary boundary. I'm okay with crossing like some of these streets if it's a really tight community, as long as I'm not crossing like a freeway or like a major highway. So let me see if I can drill down and grab another one up here first. So what I'll do is I'll go back up to 6 months here first, just to kind of see, okay, did anything else pop up? You know, is anything else going on? You know, I had this one that sold kind of, you know, looks like a 2-1, probably an as-is sale. Okay, here's one here. This one sold back in April. So this is a 2, and this one's smaller, right? But we're in our little pocket there. So I can click on this one. So this house looks like it is remodeled, right? Everybody can see that. It's nice inside. They actually did stage this one. Let me see here. So we are smaller by 1 bed, and we are smaller by a little bit of square footage there. Our lot size is about half the size as ours, and we're built also, the 40s and 50s are pretty close in era. I usually consider that. Now, caveat. So I know Jamil has his comping rules, right, that everybody follows for the nation. So at Keegley, we have our comping rules too. It's actually like an edited version of Jamil's for California, because we know that there's a little bit of nuances there that take place. That California is a little different in some aspects, but it's pretty close. It's pretty similar. There's just a couple things that we change around, but for the most part, it's pretty tight. So looking at this, so basically what I was getting at is I'll go a little further on time, like era of a property, like when it was built, maybe 15 years, sometimes 20 years, as long as like the style and thing doesn't dramatically change, right? So because things are typically built around the same. So this one here, I'm gonna see, okay, let's see, they listed it for 289, it sold over, right? So if I look at all the property history, I can see, oh, look, someone bought it last year for 170 back in May 2023, right? And then it looks like they had got it ready by September. They listed it, it went pending, probably had some issues. I don't know what happened here. When I see this, when I see like listings that come and go and then it didn't sell, Usually that means there was an issue of the property. There was some kind of litigation, there was some kind of permitting issue, there was some kind of major challenge that happened, right? So sometimes these comps can be a little false. I prefer the ones that are just cut and dry, where it's like, oh, hey, they bought it 3 months ago and they just sold it, last month, and there's not a whole bunch of this going on. But 296 gives us a number here. It is a smaller house, so we had a 296 that's smaller property, smaller lot, smaller bedroom, and then we have this guy that's much closer, so we're at 370. So I'm definitely obviously over 300, as we had determined before. I think this property probably undersold. I'm not sure. I think this property history that I'm seeing probably hurt them, because they had a bunch of time on the market. Probably, I'm going to guess that their days on market went high, so they probably lost some attention. So their strategies with that, Renee would probably know better than I would on how that goes. I am licensed, but I don't actually act as a real estate agent, unfortunately. So some of the MLS stuff and how all that works, that's a little bit foreign to me. Someone else on our team actually handles that side of things. But okay, so I have this one, and I have this guy here. This is still my favorite comp by far, just because of it's more similar to our property, right? And I know that we're above 300, and then it looks like we can push all the way to 370. So like if we put this under contract, the comp I'm using, if buyers ask me, is this comp so far, right? And that's what I'm going to push into. And a lot of the buyers I work with, I don't usually provide comps up front with them, because they know how to do this, right? They know how to comp. I try not to give them things that give them a reason to ask for a better price. I let them make their own conclusions, but when they need help, I always have it on the back burner in case I need to back myself up, right? Like, oh, here's how I got there. Here's the comp I used. Did you see that one? And sometimes they'll be like, oh my gosh, I missed it. Thank you for showing that. I can now pay that number. So going back to looking at our little field here, I don't want to go back a year. That's too far for this area. There's certain areas of California where I might be able to do that if it's like really rural or it's like a really niche property. But for the most part, I'm probably going to stick with this guy. I do have this 390 that's over on the other side here, but it's just a much different property. I don't want to use that one. So sometimes when I don't have a lot of comps to choose from, what I will consider, and I'll tell the team this too, I'm okay if we have a pending comp. So if you have something pending that we can use that's a remodel, then let's look at it, right? But it's got to be like a remodel. It can't just be, a property somebody put up there and, they're hoping for the best. So pending and active comps, because guess what we can do is we can call those agents and we can ask them, hey, do you have offers? Hey, what is it pending at? I know they're not supposed to tell you, but there's ways to definitely pull that out of them. We've gotten pretty good at that. And secondly, too, like if I'm going to call this agent, I might talk to them and be like, okay, this house, it looks like it's partially remodeled. Doesn't look like a flip to me. Maybe though. I don't know. Usually you don't have clothing in a flip as a staging, but I don't know. Some people do, I guess. But I would say this is probably not a flip. This has just been remodeled. But one thing I could do is on this one, so 318, right? One less bed, square footage is a little bit bigger, kind of a different style property, looking a little different, even though it's still built in the same kind of era. I don't love it. And if I were to go to the street view and kind of see, well, what's my curb appeal look like? I'm kind of on a weird little property, like see how we have this like weird wall and stuff around us? Like that all matters to me. So like this one, I can kind of see why it didn't sell. Well, here's what we don't know. We don't know what it's selling for. My guess is it's selling for over this number. But how would I know that? Well, I would go down here and I would call Roberto Munton right here, and I'd say, hey, Roberto, I'm interested in this property. Are you guys accepting backup offers, right? Or hey, what's going on? Are you guys selling this? Did you get over ask? And sometimes they'll just be an open book and tell you everything. And other times they'll be like, oh, Myke, I can't tell you that. It's against the rules. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, did you usually if you ask them, did you get over list price? They'll usually say yes, right? And then sometimes I'll play the hot and cold game with them. It's like, okay, well, if is it 330? Like, am I hot
Between
or cold?
this and this.
Yeah, exactly.
Blink twice.
And usually, correct. We can get them to fess up one way or another. But secondly, is I know that he lists properties, so he's an active agent. So at the same time, he might say, you know what, it's sold, it's closing tomorrow. Awesome. Well, hey, you know what? I'm looking for other opportunities in the area. predominantly fixers. Do you guys have anything coming up? And now I've just created that relationship while I'm on the phone with them. I've now added them to my CRM as an agent outreach, and then I put them in my follow-up for the future, right? And I just found him by looking at comps down the road. And then I'll also look at other comps that might be fixers too and do the same thing, because I typically know when a listing agent has fixer properties, they usually don't just have one, they usually have many. And so it's a nice way to kind of add agents to your follow-up sequence, to Astroblaster, or however you guys are doing it, or your CRMs that you're using. So I'm going to look at a couple other of these comps. I don't like this house at all. It's not remodeled. It's funky looking. It's not even pending. So none of these are going to be useful for me. Just this guy, it looks like, this 275. Well, that's our property. So these aren't going to work too well. So for me, just to kind of wrap things up on this one, I am going to go back to our 370. That's what I'm going to hang my hat on. So in this instance, I would tell the team, go get this at 68% of the market minus our fee. So 240,000. So if they can get it at 240, right, and we can lock this up, I know we can make somewhere between a 10, 15, maybe even a 20K wholesale fee in that regard. And let's say, for instance, they came back and they negotiated like, oh, you know what, we'll need 250. I just asked the team, hey, just check with me, make sure we're good, make sure I'm confident we can move it. And I would probably still say yes at 250. I still think we could make a 10 on it, maybe even a 15. I got a bunch of guys for stuff like this. They're hungry for Victorville. They will overpay. Not overpay, but they'll pay more than usual. And it's at a great price point. At this price point, I have cash buyers, like cash, not hard money cash. So their margins are a little bit more flexible. So we would be able to move this property, real quickly. Another thing too, I'm looking for that I kind of missed and I didn't hit on it is, do I have a garage? Right, we did. So make sure in California that you're comping with the same, like garage for garage, carport for carport, that kind of thing. Because if you don't have them, it definitely takes a hit on the value. Usually a little bit more than 20 grand, depending on the area, and where the property sits. So in this instance, and just something to keep in mind too, and this is just my experience, I know there's other people out there that might not experience this, but whenever I have a listed property on the market, I need to be going out somewhere between 20 to 25,000 under what the last stamped price was on the property. So we put this under contract for, let's just say 240. It goes pending. I'm going to push it out to my buyers list. What's going to happen here is the buyer's going to be like, oh, this is a listed property, right? And some of them care about that. Like, not all of them, but some do. And some of them are like, well, if I put it out for 270, 49, they're going to be like, well, why would I work with you? Like, there's no deal here. There's no value you created. So I usually tell the team, make sure like the number we're going to go out at is at least 20 to 25,000 under this. So the most I would probably go out would be like 255 on this property, trying to make like a 15K, and then let either a buyer bid it over or end up being right there, because then they're seeing, okay, there's a little bit of a discount, and there's some value for you guys, for them at the end of the day. Another trick that we do with this too is we actually ask the agents to put it on hold during our inspection period. So we've actually had a ton of luck with this. So when you put a property on hold on the MLS, it disappears off all the third-party sites. It disappears off of Zillow, Redfin, Privy, all that. Now, if you're an agent and you know what you're doing, you're going to see, oh, Myke, it's on hold. But funny enough, most of our buyers that aren't licensed, right, because not all of them are, will miss it. And they'll think it's an off-market property. And suddenly they're more interested because they feel like, oh, everybody hasn't seen this already, so I'm gonna go after this. Whereas if it's active or pending, a lot of guys are like, oh, the world's seen it, there's no way this is a deal. And that's just the BS in their head, right? But some of them, that's just how they go with it. So hope that was helpful for that one. I wasn't sure, Renee, did you want me to answer any questions about this?
Yeah, you know what? I need to send you an Uber Eats for like a cold beer, because you just rolled, my brother. I love that. If you get a knock on the door, don't be surprised. Let's just, guys, please put some dollar signs, some fire signs in the chat. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, Myke's time is incredibly valuable. Like all of our time is incredibly valuable. And I feel like I even got a re-education and picked up some nuggets. And that's what you're really looking for when you come to some of these calls. You think to yourself, I don't have the time. whatever. You know what? Listen to this on a recording. I'm going to re-listen to this because I picked up a couple of nuggets, and there's a different way to do it on Redfin. We often hear about Privy a lot. For those of us who are agents, I don't often comp really in my MLS. It's not all that user friendly, the interface. So we're utilizing these third-party systems, and Myke just gave us his time and attention and really pulling back, you know, the curtain, opening up the kimono and saying, this is how a distribution company that is profitable, that is ethical, that is actually a business, how they're comping in California. So please, again, if this has brought you some value, I see the stars, I see the fire, you know, keep on coming back. So I just wanted to say that. And the good news is, Myke, is that I think we might have more addresses than we have time. So let's do this. There's one question and there's 4 addresses. I think we've got enough for maybe one more. And then at the end, I'll make sure people don't feel like they missed out. They can either get in touch with me or with you, or come back next week with their addresses if it's not time sensitive. So Barbara, let me bring this up here. Barbara says, do you minus wholesale fee before or after the price? I think you answered that, but can you ad lib on a little bit?
Yeah. So what I would do is I'd come in at, you know, I'd tell the team 68% on this one, right? With the ability to maybe push a percent or two, and then, but I'd still subtract my fee out of that number. Usually the agents want to, you know, you got to think about it like this, especially if you're dealing with the listing agent. They've been hired by the seller to go out there and, you know, go hunting and bring them back, you know, that big piece of meat to the cave, right? So they want to feel like they've come back for a win. So I always start a little lower so that there's some room in case we need to negotiate, so that the agent feels like, hey, I got a win for my seller. Hey, I brought this back for them, right? So that there's always room to do that. So yeah, we would still subtract out our fees. So on something like this in this area, it's really common for us to hit a 10, 15, $20,000 fee. We just did a property last month in Apple Valley. We made a $21,500 fee. Really similar property. It was a 2-1, actually in a worse area than this one. But I sold that one. I had so much interest on it. It was crazy. It got bid up. So, you know, anything in the high desert is great. I did see something about the property being in probate. Now, probate properties do work if there's not court confirmation needed, okay? Because if you need court confirmation, right, and it's subject to overbid, what happens is at the day of the confirmation with the judge and at the courts, someone can actually come and overbid you. So it sucks when you have the property tied up, you have a buyer already, and then someone else shows up and buys the property from both of you. So it makes it really challenging. So with the probate stuff, I always check, hey, do they have full authority to sell? Which means that the administrator of the estate has been granted the authority by the courts to sell the property. They don't need court confirmation, right? And then those ones, you can still assign them, you can still work through it. You just usually have to be above board with everybody so that they know what you're going to do, because the attorney does have to draft some different paperwork just to make sure that happens. But we've definitely done them here. We just stay away from anything that's court confirmation, just because what happens is the moment we get overbid, it just makes everybody upset, and we put in all that work for nothing. And also, most of the time, they require a 10% EMD. So that could be really, really tough, you know. And I know EMD is a big thing out here in California. You know, most of these guys these days are starting to ask for 3%. We're pretty good at doing what's called an initial deposit. So in the page 1 of the RPA, there's a little box that actually says initial deposit and increased deposit. So, okay, I'll give you your 3%, but I'm only going to put 5 initially. And then after my IP, I'll have my buyer put in the increased deposit, which will equal 3%. And it's right on the car form. So I just reference that, and the agents are like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it's just a way for us to be agreeable. And then also too, at Keegley, we have a lot of people that come to us. We'll actually put up the EMD for any AC wholesaler that we partner with. We have some stipulations on how we do that, and there is a limit to that. But you know, it's something we can discuss at a later time if that's of interest to anybody. Because again, I know, especially like in LA, Renee, right? We have $1 million house. Well, guess what our EMD is? 10 to 30 grand.
Yeah, or 60,000 in my world.
Yeah,
I just
sometimes
get upset and hold $60,000 back for 2 months. I mean, they had no legs to stand on, but this is a real thing. Just in the spirit of time. So if anybody's head is just spinning because we're drinking from a fire hose, especially on the probate stuff, that was brilliant that you touched on it. I know that you know, Myke, know a lot about probates. I was a certified probate specialist for a lot of years. I've kind of taken a little bit of a back step on probate. They can take over your career. Some people just work probates. So, I mean, in LA County, not in all the counties in SoCal. So if anybody has a specific question on probates, please reach out to myself as well, because it's a whole other niche. People act like it's going to be a side hustle. It's not. It really is almost like a full-time job in Los Angeles County, especially. I believe it's the second largest, if not the largest, county for probates that go through a court system in any county in the country. So it's intense here. We have about 10 more minutes. And you were brilliant in going step by step and speaking out loud, you know, what you were thinking, so that this can be really an evergreen video for people to come back to and stop and pause and take notes. Do you feel comfortable if you go through at least one more address that we can touch 100%. On? Okay. Let's do this. Andreas gave us one here on Benton Way, which is more in my hood. And the way that I like to describe Los Angeles is like a bunch of different neighborhoods trying to be a city. And so you have neighborhoods, you have micro markets, you stinking have streets. And sometimes you got just blocks, because you might have a 3,000 square foot house next to a 900 square foot house. And one of my famous last words is, ask me how I know that, because I've had that. And you're like, oh my gosh, how do I comp all this? So let's you know, take it away and see what you come up with and how much 258 Benton Way is, right in Los Feliz.
258
Benton Way, yeah.
North
Benton Way is like, so I said so Los Feliz, more Silver Lake, excuse me. That's the Silver Lake neighborhood. East Side, very hip with a lot of kind of indie rockers, artists. It's on the way to downtown. Benton Way actually crosses both sides of Sunset Boulevard, way down when you're going to downtown. Not the famous Sunset Strip, but Sunset Boulevard.
Cool. You guys can see my screen. Just want to make sure everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to take myself down here so you guys can see a little bit more.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to run through just like I did before. I'll probably move a little quicker this time. That way, because I might take a little bit more time explaining things. But real quickly, again, I'm looking. Okay, this one's not listed, right? It's at least not currently. It's a 2-1-1107. Strangely enough, this property looks extremely familiar to me. I feel like we might have.
I actually know this house. It got pitched to me too.
Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah, we'll look at it. So 1923, 5,000 square feet, right? Let me scroll down here and find my little map again. I want to look at the satellite view. I want to see, you know, what's my lot looking like here in LA, like more than anywhere else, honestly. Like having usable lot space is really important. Like the more you have, the way more valuable or the way more desirable your property is to buyers who are going to flip. Just a heads up on that. So looks like there's a garage here. There's not a ton going on, but I do see that we are next to a commercial building of some sort here. Looks like a parking lot. Looks like maybe a bank. I'm not positive. But looking at this house here, looks like a craftsman style or a modified craftsman style based on the roof line. Those are more desirable for the area. Anything that has character is going to be sell better than, like, for instance, a house that looks like this one, right? I'm just kind of taking my trip down the street here. Sorry about that. So back to this here. So I'm going to go to my location. I'm going to map nearby homes for sale. And what I teach the team in LA is, especially this part of LA, is I want to comp other craftsman style homes or other similar style and era homes. So I don't want to use ones from the 50s and 60s here at all. I want to try to stick with what my property is, even if it's like a modified version of it, because that's going to be the comps that my buyers are going to run, and the buyers are going to run the comps that way because they know, you know, that's what the end user is going to pay for it. What's pretty cool about this pocket, right? Like this Silver Lake, you know, Los Feliz area, basically anything what I consider more like northeast. You know, it's kind of touching the border of Hollywood here, but, you know, like any northeast LA, right, which would include, you know, like Glendale into, you know, Echo Park, parts of Pasadena, Altadena, you know, Highland Park over here, really hot. So these pockets, so I do like it for that instance. Let me come back to where we were at here. Okay.
And also, guys, just for this too, like with Benton Way, not only do you want to do appraisal rules, say within freeways, main drags, Benton Way, as I mentioned, crosses both the north and south side of Sunset Boulevard. And it matters because Benton Way on the north side is a little bit more desirable than on the south side of Sunset. But like you said, Myke, it's just a hot area. It's the Northeast LA, Silver Lake especially has been hot for 20 plus years, at least. So people want to live there.
People do want to live there. So I'm going to do something really similar to last time. I'm keeping my square footage pretty tight. It's a smaller square footage property to begin with. I did my bed and baths. Like I said, I always like to look at that one extra bedroom in case I need to kind of play on that. A lot of these homes, believe it or not, in LA, they'll say 2-1s, but they usually have another room somewhere in them. So we can actually make that a third bedroom. Anytime there's an ability to add value like that, always ask the agents, hey, is there like a den? Is there like a living room, a study, some other room that's going on in these homes? Most of them have it, especially if it's a little bigger. Sometimes not, but if they do have it, then that's something we could potentially look at as marketing it as a 3-bedroom, and I would comp it as a 3. Even though we don't have a closet in there legally, it's very easy to add a closet versus like adding square footage where you have to get permits, spend a ton of money, and spend a ton of time. Most of the buyers that are looking at flips, they want to get in and out. They don't want their money sitting for months on end. They don't want to wonder about, hey, after the election, what's going to happen? Like, no, they want to be in and out before then, right? They want this to be a 3 to 4 month project, 6 months maximum, unless they have the appetite for the bigger stuff in general, which some of them do, and some of them that's their niche. But most of the buyers in our database are going to want the stuff that they can get in and out pretty quickly, even if it is a severe fixer. Most of them have the ability to kind of get things pushed through. So back to this here on my solds, right? So I'm going to look at first 3 months. So right here, if I zoom in, right, we're right in this pocket. I'm going to obviously not cross the 101, but I'm probably going to stay this side of Beverly Boulevard. For right now, I think I'll include the Temple one, unless I'll include everything that's basically this side of Beverly and this side of the 101 for right now, unless I determine otherwise. And then I don't want to go too far. I don't want to cross Alvarado here, and I don't want to cross, this Silver Lake that becomes Temple over here. So I'm probably going to stay right in here as best I can. So this property right here popped up, this 810. Obviously, it's not a fixer. I'm not going to use that one. I'm probably going to have to go back a little further in time. In LA, you typically do, which is how it goes. You have to go back further in time. And you might even have to, go over some rules if you have to kind of use it. This is where, I mentioned the art and science part of the business, really knowing your parts of LA, because things change very dramatically, street by street. And I'm not an expert in every part of LA at all. And I don't pretend to be.
And especially on this east side, right? Because right there where you're at on that main drag, excuse me, the 101 and then also the 2, people, here's the psychology, right? This is my realtor hat. Here's the psychology is that people who want to live in Los Feliz want to live in Los Feliz. They want to live in Silver Lake. They want to live in Silver Lake. If they want to live in Echo Park, they want to live in Echo Park. There is a distinction. So knowing your end buyer, even if you're going to do the flip, this is imperative. And most neighborhoods in LA are like this. It's very unforgiving on the south side of the hill. When you're in the San Fernando Valley, it's a little bit more, forgiving of sorts. But that's just my opinion. So, Myke, in you saying this is primo for Silver Lake. People don't want to necessarily live in Echo Park if they want to live in Silver Lake. It matters. And it's such a distinction that it's actually distinction in the MLS. It's an area. It's an actual area. So don't think this stuff is lightly, don't just willy-nilly your way if you're a flipper or, wanting to be in the flipper psychology, because if they're a good flipper and they actually know these micro markets, they will know this because they're ultimately catering to the end buyer doing the flip. And this will matter.
Correct. Exactly what Renee said. I second that completely. It's being able to really niche down in these areas and knowing, what you can and can't do, because the buyers are going to know. The buyer that takes this journey on, they're going to know this really, really well, and they're going to use it against you if you don't know it. So that's the thing, is their intention is to still buy the house for as cheap as possible, right? They don't care about your fee. They care about buying the house for as cheap as possible. Like, that's their business model. So, just something to keep in mind. So I do look for LA, right? The zip codes, like, always make sure we're definitely in the same zip code. But even sometimes like if we're on crossing another major street in the same zip code, it could still change it, because of how things are zoned and what things look like, in these parts of LA. So I don't see anything quite yet that's not over here. Again, I want to stay on this side as much as I can. I am going to see if there's anything for sale that maybe is pending that was flipped. I have this one here, 770. Okay, so this one is pending at 770, and it looks like a fixer too. So that might give us some insight on maybe that's a better price, right? Of where we need to be. But these aren't remodels. This one, clicking on these here, that's not a remodel either. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to, even if going back 6 months, I'm going to have to break a little bit of the rules to try to grab something and see, where are we at here? So if I lean this way a little bit more, am I still in the same zip code? Let's find out. 90026. Yep, I am. I might be a little bit out of it, but let me look at the street view and look and see how this property looks. Okay, so dramatically different from our property. You guys see that? So I can't use this comp. I'm not going to use this comp. It's just too much different of a home than what we're currently sitting at. So I don't want to use this one here. So I'll go back again and see, is there anything I can utilize or work with? A lot of times, if I do not have a remodel comp, I will look at what did the as-is comps sell for, right? And the cool part about Privy, and you can do this with a bunch of different software, but Privy just kind of gives it to you right away, is go take these addresses, put it into Privy, and Privy will tell you who bought the house. And you'll be like, oh, that's so-and-so's LLC. I know that guy. And you'll be like, oh, he paid $810 for a property. Cool. So, and it looks similar to ours. Then you'll have an idea. Okay, so I know that he'll probably buy another one for around that number, right? That's the logic that I would use in that regard. So I know that I would probably have to get it down, in those numbers. Now I see this 810. I also see this, the 720, but it looks dramatically different. So it looks like the fixers, might be selling for around 8. I don't think we're a 1.2 resale. Probably not. If I had to, peek over here and see what's going on, right? Like this one is like a Craftsman looking a little better than ours, and look, it is a flip, right? Like if I had to peek on this side of things, we know that it got 925, right? We are in the same zip code, right? We have a nicer looking house, but what do we not have on this one that we have on ours? Well, we don't have commercial property next to us. So that's going to be the biggest challenge. And I believe now we do have multifamily adjacent, which does matter in some pockets, but it's pretty common in LA. However, the higher price point you go in LA, by the way, people don't want to live next to multifamily. They just don't. So it makes it more difficult to sell. So coming back to this one, so this one sold for 925, right? So what did they buy that for? Let me see. All right.
And I'm just checking. I put something in the chat, but is everybody okay on time? I want to be mindful. We're almost top of the hour. So please put in the chat a thumbs up if you guys are down for maybe about 5-7 minutes afterwards, because we will wrap this up. We won't just cut it off on an address. We want to make sure we get Andreas some value.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this one, I'm going to have to pull from some different places. I'm going to have to cross over places. I'm going to have to look for, can I find other craftsmen? What are they selling for? What does that look like? This one sold for 920 here. This guy, let me see here. It looks like it's been a partial remodel. Some things have been done. It sold February for 920, 3/2/11/26. This is Echo Park house, right? So we're like just outside of that. So my gut is telling me that we're definitely under $1 million resale based on the size of the home and the fact that we're next to this. We're definitely under that. We are probably somewhere in the ballpark of, I would say, like 850 to 9 on a resale. And that's my opinion. Again, I could be wrong. Renee probably knows this area a little bit better than I do and might be able to give a little bit more insight on that. But the fact that I know that we're next to adjacent commercial, I know we're looking at least a 10% ARV reduction, maybe 15, because we just lose buyers when they're spending this kind of money and there's other things for sale, they're going to choose the other thing, right? And that's just how it goes. So for me, I know this area. I typically have to be, 65% of ARV roughly, maybe give or take a little bit. It's a smaller house, so there's probably not a lot that needs to happen. So if I told my guys, look, we got to be under 900 for like your resale's under 900, like let's meet in the middle and say 875. at 65%, I'm going to be probably in the mid to high fives on this property on offering it. So on this one here, I don't know where you guys are at on the numbers. I think I've looked at this one before, and I think we're way off base with numbers because of what's happening here and then just the comps being around here. And again, a lot of my buyers, they're going to be like, Myke, if there's no comps, I'm not interested. Or if there's no comps to prove it up, I can't pay that price, because they're not gambling. They're making calculated risks, right? So a lot of them, some of them will pass like, man, why'd you pass on that property, Myke? There's no evidence to show that I'm going to make money on this deal, right? And if I'm not going to make money, I'll wait, because I know other deals will show up. So in this one, I'm probably going to be a lot more conservative, and I'm probably going to tell the agent, hey, my number is going to have a 5 in it, right? And then just see how they respond. Right. And oh, heck no, there's no way. And then you have your answer, right? And move on later. Right. But if they're like, okay, well, let's talk about that. And I always tell people, my number's going to have 5 in it. Well, okay, I start at like 501. Right. And then we work our way up from there. Right. I always want to start at the lowest price possible that I possibly can, once I've kind of thrown something out there that's vague. And a lot of times they'll tell you too, hey, we need to be at this number. But if they're like, well, make an offer, we're not going to tell you, I'll throw out kind of an ambiguous, vague number just to kind of get their attention and just kind of see how they respond, right? And then I'll kind of work my way from there. But I wouldn't feel comfortable on this property selling this for anything over $599 to a buyer. I would want to market this at $599 and basically see how the buyers respond to it, and then know that we could come down a little bit if we needed to adjust and move from there. But I kind of price stamp it kind of at that next threshold. And that's kind of how I work backwards on this one. Definitely more complicated, but this is kind of how LA is, guys. Like there's just pockets of it where we have to kind of put some things together. And a lot of times too, I'll have our team leads that'll reach out and say, hey, Myke, this is what we're thinking. What do you see? And then sometimes I might be like, you know what? Let me take this. We actually have an appraiser on our team too, that we take stuff that like I'm like lost on. We'll take it to him. I'll have Joe and Sergio, the owners, take a look at it too, and kind of get everybody's feel and consensus, because we've all seen a lot, and we're like, okay, we're about the same number. Maybe we offer a little. Maybe we go 63% on this one just to be safe and see where we're at. But again, the seller's got to be motivated. The agent's got to be on board. Also, too, ask the agent, hey, do you have a flip comp you could show me that maybe I missed? I always ask that question. Like, hey, is there something that I missed? Help me get there, right? I don't have that. How am I going to make money? Like, right? Chris Voss, hey, help. How am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to get approval from my company owner? Asking those questions, and you cause them to solve the problem for you. And then they have agreement with you on how to solve that problem. So I hope that one was helpful. This one was a little bit more tricky, but I guess we could jump into questions here. I'll stop sharing my screen too. That way we're back here.
Oh, beautiful. And I actually did that on purpose, because I knew Benton Way. I know Benton Way, not just maybe that property got pitched to me too. I know they wanted in the 8s, but because of the neighborhood, so it gave us all a challenge to see how things, pan out. And I'm of the opinion too, that maybe a 5 in front of it, the seller is going to just clutch their pearls. They're going to be like, oh my God, However, if you look at 68%, we're right in the low 600. So that even gave you a little bit of a buffer, as well. Maybe you're not going to make as much of a spread, but everybody can eat. And the way that I see the majority of Los Angeles, or some of the older cities or municipalities throughout Southern California, including San Diego, I mean, guys, these houses are like 100 years old. I know it sounds weird when you put it in context that way, but guess what? They were built in 1922, 1923. We're at 100 years old. And so in terms of flipping these properties, and I work with a gentleman who his entire niche is Long Beach, which is a lot of these California bungalows, these older homes, and also the East Side. He doesn't do all of LA. He just does that East Side. And I call it an oops fee. So the minute you start opening up walls, it's like, oh my gosh, did the termites eat through everything? And that's going to be another X dollars. It's not even the systems. It's just the length of time. So these are things that if you're going to step into maybe San Diego proper, Los Angeles proper, that you do need to consider. And I mean, if you're going to Palmdale or Lancaster, which is the far edges of LA County, not so much, right? Because that used to be the Wild West out there. So most things were built probably in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's not going to maybe have the same issue. But these older houses are a real crapshoot. It's either that the termites did not eat through the redwood, which they don't even use anymore, I don't believe, back in the day, or they did. And you're never going to know until you open those walls. So you really want to buffer about another, Myke, maybe 15, even 20%, given how much things cost right now, the cost of goods cost right now on top of that. So, you might have to put a 5 in front of it. So sometimes if you're talking to the agent, don't be argumentative. Don't try to be right about something. Like Myke said, engage, utilize emotional intelligence. I've been blessed that I've been coaching directly with Chris Voss for about 4 years. So I utilize it like it just rolls off the tongue. And it's been my biggest unique selling proposition of my life, not just in real estate. I utilize that communication style in all equities of my life, and it really enrolls people. So don't become so argumentative and righteous. You're enrolling them so that when people come to their own conclusion, even if they don't like it, because we're all kind of little kids at heart, that, they might go pound sand, but they go, dang, that girl Renee, or what, that guy Myke, I didn't get left disempowered. I just got left with facts. It's like, I have to buy it for this because it costs that. Nobody's stealing any equity. So again, enroll, and you're going to find that you get a lot more bees with honey in that way. So listen, the audience has been wonderful. I put in the chat, that everybody was okay, that we went over a little bit. And Myke, you have just been incredible. I mean, my gosh, in all of my 19 years, that doesn't even mean anything. I feel like it's day one every day, but I've been here for a minute. In all of my 19 years, I'm still a student. I love the game. I love the craft. And I like to listen, to actively to what other people are doing so that I can learn and impart and be a resource. Because guys, again, like I said at the top of the hour, there is just opportunity everywhere. Don't come at this business from a place of lack. Don't be in an upset that NAR is doing whatever NAR is doing, or agents are in a complaint right now. I don't actually market myself as an investor per se. I talk more like agent to agent relationship, and they just can't get off of it. So, empathize with the agent. Realize that this is 100 years later. National Association of Realtors is making a shift. Things are happening. It's an election year. People, the inflation, people's kids, whatever. Everything's expensive. Everybody's coming down on everybody. So just have a heart, as to who you're speaking with, and bring your data. Also, those of you who feel like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? You do need to know how to comp. It is an art, and it's somewhat a science. If you still feel like you just drank from a fire hose, and you don't know what you're doing, that's why you call someone like myself. If you resonate with me, call me. If you resonate with Myke, call Myke. We're basically both doing the same thing, and we will help you. So for those of you that could not get your addresses done today, please come back tomorrow. We're going to be here every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, comping all of California. Spread the word. Please, as the kids say, smash that like button or that subscribe button so you get notifications of what's going on. And lastly, Miss Corianne, for many of you on this call know Corianne Wright. She and I host on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Ask the Agent Anything. She and I are both agents. She's in the Colorado market. Clearly, I'm here in California. Right prior to this call is Comping Colorado. So we are all here for you. And prior to that is Jamil's Straight Out of Comping. So we are writing the coattails of what this is to bring you guys all kinds of value and try to niche down for you. California is what, the 6th largest economy in the world. There's a lot to learn. And the fact that Myke took out his gracious time from his busy day to do this. Myke, did this bring you any value, hopefully? Or did you feel like you were just the teacher for the day?
Yeah, no, I'm always learning something too myself. Like when I'm looking at stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this, that, and the other, things I've learned along the way. And Keegley, like we want to be a resource to the community. Yeah, we have our business model. We are a franchise, but at the same time too, we are the local resource for the Astro community in the neighborhood, like in Southern California, like Keegley West. Like that's what we want to be for you guys, a support mechanism. Whether you work with us or you can learn from us so that you can go get your first deal. By all means, I work with both AC and Dispo wholesalers all the time. I just closed a deal with a brand new sub 2 student who started doing some Dispo on the side, and he happened to have the right buyer for a property I didn't have. They made 15 grand. We just closed that deal. So there's opportunity, but the lanes run both ways. We're here to help, and also at the same time, I'm always looking for help. Love to connect with you guys. We actually have a meetup in Pasadena happening tomorrow night, and Renee will be one of our guest panelists. So looking forward to that. Come find us, Keegley West, at Instagram. That's our handle. If you guys want to reach me, I can give you should I give my number?
It's up to you because this is going to live on YouTube. So, and I'm not going to edit it out. So give your Google number, or guys, just, Google Keegley West, get at me if you want personally. I'll give you Myke's number. And here's what I mean. This is in the spirit of collaboration. for all intent and purposes, Myke and myself are kind of competitors, right? I'm looking for stuff. I'm doing ACT, I'm doing dispo, I'm doing the dance, right? But I call up Myke all the time. And I asked him here, in the spirit of education. So when you have an abundance mindset, abundance always comes back to you. So for some of you who are thinking like, that's weird, why is Renee doing this? Well, number one, I don't know if Myke's going to be back, but he has been the first guest on Comp in California. We will have other people just to shake it up. He may be my touchstone depending on his schedule. But I just want you guys to hear that for yourselves, that I could easily have gotten into that mind space. Maybe I'll lose some, but it was never anything to lose. This is just in the spirit of education and collaboration. So please hear that for yourselves when you're out in the world. And again, if you resonate with me, wonderful. I'm here to help. And if not, call Myke, or maybe you resonate with me and I call Myke, and everybody wins. So with that, please join Corianne on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time for Comp in Colorado. Even if Colorado is not your market, get in there, start in the chat, hit her up, give your girl some love. We all love our Corianne if you're an Astro Flipping student. And then myself here at 3 p.m. on Wednesdays for Comp in California. Myke, any parting words?
Hey guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I am very, very grateful that you allowed us to come be on your show today. And for all of you guys listening, look, I've known Renee for quite a while. I've been involved in Astro for quite a while. She is a wealth of knowledge. She is definitely somebody that is a giver. She's open, she helps, she can get deals done. And basically what they're doing here, I love it. Comp in California, let's keep it rolling. Look forward to being, a guest again back down the road.
Absolutely, guys. Say what you will in the comments there in the chat, as they say. Smash the subscribe button, and we're going to peace out on this now sunny. Ooh, the sun came out. Sunny California day. Myke, I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here.
Bye, guys.